This is a meeting of the Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee. Today is Wednesday, September 10th, 2025. My name is Victor Normand. I will chair this meeting. I'll begin by calling the roll. Janice Livingston.
Here.
Robert Pontbriand.
Here.
Rachel Freelander.
Here.
Welcome. Susan Mary Redinger. Dan Nason.
Here.
Brian Sawyer.
Here.
Logan Breeze.
Here.
Brian Hildebrand.
Here.
Bill Marshall.
Here.
Neil Angus.
Here.
John Catter.
Here.
Odile Smith. Ryan McDivitt.
Here.
Kristen Cullen. We have a majority and a quorum. We are in order.
Mr. Chairman, I just also mentioned Don Dunbar from.
Yes, we have two new members. One, Rachel has been officially appointed to this committee by the Select Board in air. Welcome. And then Dan, I think you're about to propose an alternate member from the town of Harvard.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Funny you should ask.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes, we have with us today Ms. Dawn Dunbar. She's the Assistant Town Administrator in Harvard, and I'd like to propose her as an alternate.
She'll be an alternate. Okay, welcome. Okay, moving right along. Approval of minutes, June 11th. Comments? Questions? Corrections? Is there a motion to approve the minute?
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 11th, 2025 as submitted.
Second.
And there's a second. Dan, a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Without objection, the minutes are approved unanimously. Minutes for June 18th, 2025. Any comments?
I saw no issues.
Corrections?
I will make a motion that the meeting minutes from June 18th, 2025 be approved as submitted.
Janice is our second.
Second.
Second by Neil. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. Without objection, the minutes are approved unanimously. Old business, Mass Development Response Letter, Draft RFP. Okay, so at our meeting of June 18th, we approved a letter that was sent to Mass Development requesting their participation in our meetings. And on July the 30th, I received a reply which I sent to board members. It's brief, so I'll read the reply from Najif Ball, who is the CEO and President of Mass Development, July 30th, 2025. Dear Victor, I hope that you are doing well and enjoying the summer. Now it goes downhill from here. As you know, the governing legislation for Devens contemplates a study to be started by July 1st, 2030 to evaluate alternatives for a permanent government structure at Devens. As set forth in the legislation, Mass Development will be part of that effort together with the Devens Enterprise Commission and the boards of selectmen as the elected representatives of each of the towns. That group is instructed to submit a study to the governor and other state leaders by July 1st, 2033. That work will include public participation and public hearings. We look forward to working with the group identified in the Devens legislation on these important questions as we get closer to July 1st, 2030. In the meantime, we will not be able to commit Mass Development resources and personnel as you have indicated in the draft RFP. Regards, Najib Ball. So, my reply to Najib, which I sent to the members, is I said, Najib, I hope you are doing well in your position and getting some time to enjoy the summer. And then this goes downhill from here. As the invitation to rejoin the DJFC, while not the response we hoped for, your statement of Mass Development's position is clear. We have correctly identified the parties to the planning process, but you have not provided reasons why Mass Development believes the process should not now be ongoing despite all other parties committed to moving forward. Best, Victor Normand. So, okay, comments?
It pretty much reiterates what they've been saying for a while now. So, but over the years, so many dates have gotten thrown out, and maybe that's because we've talked about, like what if we do it sooner, and all these conversations that are happening is I thought that. So again, I'm getting confused because of all the dates that get discussed over the years. So he's saying that the report goes in 2033 to the Senate. I thought that the decision had to be made in 2033, and we had to get the report to them like a little before that so that they could make the decision. Could we clarify that and then not talk about dates anymore?
Yeah, this is John Janis, if I may. I think the report is to be initiated, the study is to be initiated no later than July 1st, 2030, to be completed and delivered no later than July 30th, 2033. Do I have that correct?
That's correct.
That sounds right. Okay.
As per chapter 498, that is correct.
Okay. I
We
just
have
needed
3
to clarify.
years to complete the study.
Yeah. Okay.
Once Mass Development is back at the table.
Right.
Right.
Okay, because, there was a time that when a conversation was happening, what if we could move it sooner? I just wanted to make sure that the date was correct. So thank you very much.
I think the exact wording in the legislation is not later than July 1st, 2030. And in her letter, Najib says to be started by July 1st. So there's kind of an admission that there's no prohibition against starting the process sooner. And I guess what struck me as a little odd is that she takes the opportunity to mention that there will be public participation in the process, but yet doesn't recognize the fact that the other parties that she recognizes, in addition to the Devens community, are interested in starting that process sooner. And the legislation really doesn't say who starts the process, but clearly Mass Development has the information and resources that they should be involved. So this represents the third Mass Development President CEO who has decided that they do not want to participate in a process that was started by the fourth CEO president. So Neil, I know you were most hopeful that this might get Mass Development involved in the process. Do you still feel that there's...
I think it was the right step to take in terms of requesting the new administration to see what their take is, and it seems clear from the response that the take is they have no interest in accelerated jurisdiction. They're following the letter of Chapter 498 and saying we'll be back to the table. We will start this process in 2030 when the legislation requires us to. It's unfortunate, but it is what.
Dan?
Mr. Chair, pardon my...
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Go ahead, John.
So, Mr. Chairman, a couple things. I think it's important to be noted that that Mass Development has committed publicly that they would fund the entire study were it to align with the dates that we had mentioned: July 1st, 2030, July 30th, no later than July 30th, 2033. So we've been talking about how do we get funding. Mass Development has committed to paying this study in full. It's just that they would not want to have any acceleration of that timeline. And one point of clarification, I apologize if I misheard you. Mr. Chairman, did you say that
You're fading,
residents were in
John.
favor? Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry if I misheard you. Did you say that the Devens residents favored accelerated jurisdiction? Or did I mishear that?
I think what I said was, in my, no, in Najif's communication, she mentions the 3 towns. She doesn't mention the Devens community
Okay.
being involved in
I
the process.
apologize. I apologize. I don't have a letter. I apologize.
Yeah, and so my comment was that the Devens community is involved in the process right now.
Yes, to be clear, they are involved in the process, but I have not heard any endorsement of an accelerated jurisdiction.
Okay. Dan, I'm sorry.
Again, pardon for my ignorance here, because I have not been at the table as long as most of you folks. It's only been a year. What happens in 2030 then, when they come back to the table? Do we start from ground zero and just give them a summary? Like, what happens at that point?
If I can.
Is that a stupid question?
Janice? No?
Well, we have our individual committees, right? So, and I know that it's been talked about, you know, they can do their groundwork as far as, you know, evaluating everything, what would happen, because regardless, whatever the decision is, there's going to be a change that will impact people, okay? So they can do their work so that when it comes time for mass development to come back, we can basically say, okay, here's some basic research that we've all done, because the consultant's got to pull everything together to pull out a report. So that's what I think is how it would go.
So I think the best we can say is that back, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, Mass Development suggested that we form this committee for that, presumably for that purpose. And we expanded the committee to include the Devens community. And we're working with Mass Development. They were attending meetings until Lauren, help me out here.
Actually,
Lauren Liss?
Lauren
Liss?
Resigned as Mass Development CEO. Dan Rivera came in. He allowed, his staff was participating for a while, but then abruptly said, we're done, and pulled out. The interim CEO, again, represented to a meeting. I think you were there, Robert, and you may have been there, Neil. Early in his tenure, that he would be participating, Mass Development would be participating, and they never did. They came to one meeting, and then Najif just took time to respond, and then just did not want to participate.
So I guess my question again would be, what happens at that timeline in 2030, and all the reports that were generated, all the decisions that were made by this group here? Is that just going to be submitted and then we're kind of waiting, or are we going to be part of the conversation? I just, at that point, when they become involved again.
I would think part of the conversation, even based on what he said, that there would be a public process.
Okay.
Because, you know,
I just don't think
if
not
the
clear.
air committee, you know, has come up with this information, like if the decision was to go back to historical lines and air did this would be what would happen with air, then Harvard's going to have theirs, and so it all has to be discussed, because, you know, they're not necessarily, unless they're watching, going to know what air's talking about, and vice versa, and so it all have to be discussed in that big public forum. So yes, I would think that we would be. And if they tried to say no, I think we'd all be like, excuse me, we're going to anyways.
In her brief communication, she does indicate that Mass Development, along with the 3 towns, will look forward to the group, meaning the Mass Development and the towns. The group is instructed to submit a study, so she's saying that the towns will be involved. How they will be involved is, all we can do is go back to her predecessors who said form a committee, and so I guess hopefully this committee or some variation thereof will be involved in the public participation process.
Yeah, the towns are required to be involved as part of Chapter 498, the town's mass development, the Devens Enterprise Commission. And the whole purpose of what these exercises that we've been doing is to collect data and gather information. This matrix that we've been doing every meeting is to put together baseline data for a future consultant, whether it be through the RFP process that we did or whether it be through mass development's process or the Chapter 498 permanent disposition of Devens process.
I
It starts in
appreciate that.
2030. So
Yeah, I'm just, I guess, curious of what type of involvement and to what level. That's all.
yeah, the whole strategy and framework of how that all works still needs to be ironed out.
That's
We're collecting the background data that will be used as part of whatever process is developed, right?
Okay, any other comments? All these communications to Navjeet, her response, and my reply of all the local delegation has been copied on all of those correspondence. Okay, moving right along. Robert?
Sorry, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I think on this issue, though, it begs the question now, and not to get way off topic, is to how do we proceed here? And having been at the table since day one, I think, and my own observation, I think it's very poor planning on behalf of mass development in the state not to have engaged the framework process is number one. Number two, there are a lot of dynamics that are underway on Devens that the state is looking for, whether it was the governor's subgroup or study group on housing, the issue of the cap, and there's talk now that they want potentially a super town meeting in the near future on things, of which I'm speaking for AIR, but I think all of the towns, we've always been partners in working on those various issues, and it doesn't seem to be reciprocated. And as was put in the letter that this group sent of the 4 major reasons to come back to the table, I feel like all stakeholders are equal and key, but with them not at the table, it really is tying our hands, as illustrated by the RFP which we sent. And I think it's telling that in the response you got, it doesn't even acknowledge the RFP that was sent, because we sent that with the letter. And in that RFP, regardless of what your feelings are on that, anybody on the financial analysis, you can't do that without mass development, at the table. You can't, a lot of these questions, you can't effectively move forward without mass development there. Additionally, you have the Devens stakeholders that are very concerned about the future of their property and their home and the issue, and it's just really unfortunate. And my concern is that and this is just my own speculation, but are they just going to run the clock and we get to 2030 and it's, well, we need some more time or what have you, or the same thing with 2033 is we don't have any substantive reason as to why they don't want to engage in this process. So I just offer that, but I think not to monopolize this topic with the time, I think we have a pretty clear answer from mass development. The question becomes, what is the next step and what is the goal of the framework? Otherwise, it seems like we will be forever in this perpetual hamster wheel of, we got to get them back to the table, we're not coming back to the table, how do we move forward? Thank you.
So picking up on Dan's comment about what is the process, it's not spelled out. But I think what assurance do we have that in 2030 that they'll come to the table?
Well, at that point,
They're
I think it's
required
in-
by the
yeah,
legislation
law.
Required by law.
Yeah.
to come to the
But
table
what,
for chapter 498.
again, the legislation says on or before, and as Robert is suggesting, I just don't have a lot of confidence in, so the fact that mass development in their communication talks about public participation, but yet doesn't acknowledge the fact that that's exactly what has been taking place for a number of years. So what do we do? I mean, do we just accept that?
Well, I think it is covered by law, and I think that right now we have to go with, in 2030 they're back at the table. What happens tomorrow, I don't know. But I think right now that we're just going to have to go with they're coming back in 2030, and as we go forward, we periodically test the waters and say, hey, do you want to come back and have a conversation? Now, the subject of them possibly wanting a super town meeting for something coming up, well, that's a good way of getting them at this table too, because part of their process, they have to work with each one of the towns to get that set up, and they have to have like some public forums, and this would be a good venue for them to be able to do it too. And then while we have them here, oh, by the way, so I think that we do have some opportunities coming up that they will be engaging with this committee and with the towns on things that they need to do, because at that point they are going to kind of need us to help get their message across.
Yeah. So how does Shirley feel about that? Of using that leverage to get mass development to the table?
I think that it's a possibility. I think it's definitely a possibility to utilize the leverage in the sense of it's been communicated that I think they're looking to have a super town meeting at some point soon. I also, even though that's an opportunity, at the same time they did just respond, very recently that they have no interest in coming back, and I don't know, how effective that will be, but it's
I feel like they'd come back to to convince everyone to do the super town meeting, and then they'd give us the same general spiel of, well, we're looking into maybe potentially coming back, and that'd be the end of the conversation for that until 2030. I don't think they would do it anytime sooner.
Ryan, what do you think?
I think it truly just comes down to the topic of the super town meeting, and things will just evolve from there. I truly think it comes down to the topic of it, and frankly, at the end of the day, it's in their best interest not to engage with us, because it's a potential dissolution of mass development. So it's like, why hurry up and have my job go away as well? So it's something I was keeping in the back of my mind.
Dan, I know you can't speak for the select board, but how do you think they might react to linking participation here with, yeah.
Mr. Chair, I think we need to be very careful about, separating the two issues. One being the permanent jurisdiction disposition of the Devens Regional Enterprise Zone and the housing working group report and the findings of that report, which, talked about potentially rezoning Vicksburg Square, and, a tit for tat type issue. I think it's just, I think each issue should be looked at and weighed on its own merits, and not, well, we're not going to do anything unless you do something for us. I think that's not a positive response or action appropriately.
And all three towns have expressed support for additional housing at Devens, so that's out there. And also, I think that could, Janice, that could backfire, and and mass development could use that as an excuse for going right past super town meeting and going to the legislature and saying the towns aren't cooperating.
I never said the town wasn't going to cooperate. And I wasn't talking about tit for tat either. I was literally saying that if they have to have a super town meeting and they've got to go to the towns to talk about it, and they've got to have these public forums, that this committee also can help them get their message across. And then while they're sitting with us, helping them get their message across, they're also maybe talking to us, engaging with us, and realizing that maybe working with this committee can be a good idea. They don't, I mean, this whole thing, them acting like, they're so busy that they can't sit here for an hour, is just kind of a little bit ludicrous. Because if you remember when Dan Rivera, he was, the first time we got him to a meeting, he said he was, what was he, building a bridge? He was on vacation, but he was building a bridge, and we were like, "Are you literally building it? Because we think you have people." So yeah. I'm not a tit for tat type of person. So I think that it then introduces us to them because this individual doesn't know us, and opens up of, hey, maybe this is a good idea that we kind of work together.
Okay, moving right along.
Mr. Chair, there is one, other potential opportunity, for this committee as well too, with the recent announcement of the departure of Meg Delorier from Mass Development. She has announced her retirement. So Mass Development will be looking for a new executive vice president in charge of Devens operations. Whoever that new person is another opportunity for us to try and engage with them to bring them back to the table. In addition, along with Navjeet, under Navjeet's direction, but it's an opportunity for us to provide more outreach.
Well, as has been our custom, we don't give up, so we'll keep at it. It's just unfortunate that Mass Development has come to the towns over the past 30 years and asked for things, and we've pretty much cooperated, and yet they won't join us here. Okay.
I've had them stand in our meetings in the back of the room and stand up and yell, "We're not leaving until 2033." It's like, okay.
Well, they have been to our meetings in the past as well, too.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that there's been those times and you're like, wow, okay.
Okay, moving right along under old business, we have 3 questions or submissions for our matrix, and getting close to completing our framework that we started on a couple of years ago. Okay, question number 13, or submission number 13, deals with community engagement of permanent government. So just for those who are unfamiliar with the process, this committee has developed a matrix. We've listed 19 different major functions of municipalities, and across the top of the matrix we've listed 5 options for future governance. Return to the 3 towns, become a town, or status quo, nothing changes. And so we'll go through 3 of those submissions today. Each of the stakeholders will briefly summarize their thoughts on these submissions. The first one, community identity, Town of Air. Janice or Robert? Or...
Sure, so Mr. Chairman, and if I could just briefly again want to reintroduce Rachel Friedlander, who worked with Janice and I on these submissions. Welcome, Rachel. She started with us on July 1st as our Economic Development Director and as a new member appointed by the board to this group. So in a nutshell, as you see, historically, AIR has been referred to as the Great Junction, built largely along the railroad, north-south and east-west. Access was key with the railroad. Of course, later on with the development of Fort Devens, both the railroad and Fort Devens sort of drove a big piece, if you will, of the community, not all of it, of AIR. As we mentioned, we're very proud of our diversity. AIR has a very diverse population, more so than a lot of the other towns around here that makes us unique. We have the quaint downtown, which we continue to focus on. Our 2017 master plan, and we're going to be doing our next master plan in just a couple years, identifies and stresses a lot of the importance of our character and access and community and so forth. And I think Air, like all of the towns out here west of 495, change is inevitable, as they say, but I think we're all, as new folks are moving westward, whether due to costs closer to the city and so forth, there are new people and new forces that are changing the towns as we are in the 21st century. So in the interest of time, the synopsis there for Air, touching upon that, is for anybody to read.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions for Air? Town of Harvard, our submission, first of all, acknowledges that there are two communities, that the Devens community has emerged and certainly has its own identity. There is some cross-pollination occurring presently. That Harvard provides education for many of the students who live on on Devens. And also, there's members of the Devens community do serve on some of the boards and committees in the town of Harvard. And we would hope that a disposition solution would recognize the separate identities, yet work towards a single community identity. We recognize that there is a need to, on the part of Harvard, to better understand exactly Devens as a community. I finally conclude by celebrating a new opportunities available for each community will not diminish the strong sense of community identity of either locale, but could allow for the formation of a new municipality mutually beneficial in a long-lasting relationship. And Harvard just points to the fact that we do have within the town of Harvard the village of Still River, which has its own identity, and would anticipate that Devens would retain that village, if you will, identity going forward. Town of Shirley.
Yes, so the town of Shirley is a small rural community. As far as community identity, if we revert back to historic boundaries, the town of Shirley would definitely open up to any residents that were living on the Devens property. At the same time, we would recognize Devens as almost a village, similar as Harvard identified. I think Devens as a whole, even though it's part of the historic boundaries of Air, Shirley, and Harvard, has created its kind of community feel based on its military history, their community events, their recreational events. And so even though they would be part of Shirley and we would welcome them, I think we would also try and maintain as best we could kind of almost a village of Devens within the town of Shirley. So.
Questions? Okay, John Catter, Devens Working Group.
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Devens has formed a distinctly unique, diverse, and cohesive community identity, independent of the three towns, whom we hold in the highest regard as we support each other's communities. Our business partners, such as Bristol-Myers Squibb and Commonwealth Fusion Systems, who join us today, enhance this identity as they, like us, plant their flag here on Devens. We are active, engaged, and increasingly enfranchised, and look forward to welcoming many more residents to enjoy the benefits of Devens as we do. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, John. Ryan, would you care to comment?
Ryan at BMS?
Yes.
No, no comments from us.
Okay. All right. Neil, Devon Enterprise Commission.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So, as everybody knows, Devens is a former military base, so a rich military history, which continues to be a big part of the community, along with the existing residents and businesses that have recently come to call Devens home. But the whole formation of Devens is surrounded by the whole identity in the reuse plan, which is sustainable redevelopment. So that really has been an identifying factor for the redevelopment of Devens. 1,800 acres of open space. We operate as one of North America's premier eco-industrial parks, where the businesses work together as a system of industries to maximize efficiencies, minimize waste. We do a lot of regional collaboration, as we've seen in the other matrices, on regional services, the amount of regional services that Devens provides. So there is that regional connection. And yeah, that's about, it's all about the social, economic, and environmental components of Devens. So the open space, the eco-industrial park, the residential population, and all of the social elements that are part of Devens United Native American Cultural Center, all the the Loaves and Fishes Food Pantry, Clear Path for Veterans, all those services provide a regional, collaboration or regional benefits to the community. It's really that regional identity.
Okay. All right. It's pretty clear from everybody's comments that Devens, everyone else agrees with the submission from Devens that it really has its own identity. It has evolved over the past 30 years. Okay, the next, moving right along, the next question has to do with utilities. How would, under each of the 5 different options, how would managing utilities be undertaken? Town of Air?
So, Mr. Chair, the town of Air currently operates municipal water, wastewater, solid waste transfer station, and stormwater. All of these municipal utilities are under the Air Department of Public Works and are funded as municipal enterprise funds, which are further governed by the Select Board and town meeting approval. The town of Air, we have National Grid for electricity and natural gas, Comcast, Xfinity, Verizon for the internet services. In addition, we currently have an existing emergency water interconnection system between Air and Devens, and we have periodically purchased water from Devens and vice versa in the event of emergency situations. We also have an agreement with Devens to provide a certain level of wastewater flow to the Devens wastewater treatment facility. If we were to assume the jurisdiction of the historic boundaries, the town would first conduct a professional study of the Devens water and wastewater systems to analyze and determine the issues of capacity and feasibility concerning those systems, as well as any alternative service model for that. We'd also consider the appropriate intermunicipal agreements with respect to those utilities. We would also look at an analysis to determine the capacity of our air transfer station for the purposes of offering this service to any residents on the air portion of Devens as a trash removal alternative. That's sort of it in a nutshell.
Okay, for the town of Harvard, we acknowledge that the Devens utility infrastructure does not follow town boundaries. So we would propose crafting intermunicipal agreements between the towns and share responsibility for managing Devens utilities as a municipal utility. The existing operation is structured as a municipal utility, although it is not legally one, and we believe that structure should continue. We believe that the utility should be self-sustaining. And I think Robert mentioned the enterprise, using enterprise funds to keep the operation and income and expenses of the utility separate from that of the municipality. Along those lines, we would anticipate the creation of one or more governing bodies, the number of representatives to be in proportion to the ratepayers in each of the towns. In general, we would propose continuing the current structure of using a small permanent staff to oversee operations. Town of Shirley.
Yes, the town of Shirley for municipal utilities is serviced by the Shirley Water District, the Shirley Sewer Commission. For corporate utilities, town is serviced by National Grid, Xfinity, and a variety of local oil and fuel companies. What is a little bit unique is Devens is governed by the Devens, or serviced by the Devens Utilities Department, with the exception of the Shirley Town Complex. Some of those are serviced by utilities that service the town of Shirley. The goal would be to utilize the services that are provided by the Devens Utilities, whether it's a separate entity takes those over, or as Harvard had mentioned, there could be an opportunity that the towns of Air, Shirley, and Harvard operate the Devens utility with municipal agreements. So there would be options, and the first option would, for the property on Devens that's historically Shirley, we would try and utilize the existing utilities that's currently serviced by Devens.
Devens Working Group. John?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For each type of utility, there is a separate path. Sewer service can be purchased, as you can see. For gas, a utility company can purchase and service as well. For electric, mass development or another entity can administer, run, or Devens will administer it as a town. That's what we have.
Okay. Neil, status quo?
So yeah, currently, obviously Devens operates as a municipal utility. We have water service that's provided through 3 groundwater wells for drinking water. I think Robert I think Brian also mentioned the water shared use agreements that currently exist for water between the town of Air. There is a current municipal agreement also with the town of Harvard for regional water service. And Devens does supply MCI Shirley with water as well too. Mass development contracts with Veolia to operate the existing water treatment plant, water treatment facilities. They also contract with Veolia for all the sewer services as well too. Devens does have its own wastewater treatment facility. Again, the theme here is kind of regional services as well. They're not only servicing the Devens area, but they do provide services to the town of Air, Shirley, and Harvard. Well, Harvard is exploring options for sewer service connection into Devens. And this all comes out of Chapter 498 as well too, where, when feasible, regional connections should and can be made to surrounding towns. So again, that regional service is a good identification for what's going on right now. 5 electrical substations in Devens proper, servicing Devens. ISO New England is the system operator, National Grid owns the transmission lines that supply the power to our substations. Currently, Littleton Light and Electric holds the operation and maintenance contract. It was Wellesley Municipal Light and Electric up until recently, but now Littleton is holding that maintenance contract. For gas services, Tennessee Gas Pipelines supplies to National Grid, and National Grid supplies to Devens. There are two take stations in the area that service Devens. So that's kind of a snapshot of the existing utility services.
But I think we've talked about this in the past, that Mass Development has done many things very well at Devens, and the utilities is an excellent example of that. It's really a well-run organization, and I think that there is strong support for continuing that same system. Okay, the next item is near and dear to Neil's heart, regional services. But we won't start with Neil, we'll start with the town of Air.
So, Mr. Chair, as mentioned in speaking with Air, I've already touched upon our water and wastewater intermunicipal agreements. In terms of mutual aid, similar to, I think, the other towns, Air currently has mutual aid agreements in place with Devens as well as the towns of Harvard and Shirley. Air currently operates both a full-time basic life support and advanced life support ambulance service. Air currently operates the Air Shirley Regional Dispatch, which serves Air and Shirley. The regional dispatch does have additional capacity for future expansion. Veteran Services, I think a lot like the other two towns, we have had we have the intermunicipal agreement with Devens to provide veteran services to any veterans on Devens through Air's agent. And lastly, in terms of regional, Air currently has an intermunicipal agreement with the Montechusett Regional Transit Authority, in which MART operates the Air commuter parking facility as well as maintaining the facilities at the train stop. Of course, if we were to resume historic boundaries of Devens, the town would conduct an analysis of our existing services as well as develop a plan for integration of those and or expansion of existing regional services on Devens.
Okay, if Harvard were to resume jurisdiction, are there many, as is the case with Air, and I'm sure Shirley, there are some regional activities that are ongoing, police and fire, mutual aid, the regional dispatch, Parker Charter School, certain open space and recreation activities. Devens household hazardous waste collection. Harvard does participate in it well, and would anticipate that to continue. And Harvard encourages regionalization, and as we get further into the whole disposition process, the town of Harvard will be looking for other opportunities to regionalize public services. There are existing programs at Devens that do serve the region, including Veterans Housing, Loaves and Fishes, the Native American Cultural Center, Transitional Women's Shelter. And Harvard, we're not entirely sure of the structure with respect to Mass Development's financial participation with those programs, but we would anticipate that they would all continue in one form or another upon Harvard resuming jurisdiction. The programs of the Enterprise Commission, the Great Exchange Program, and the household hazardous waste and so on, because we would anticipate, as we have previously indicated, that the DEC would continue to operate as it has in the past, and would expect that they would continue to support their regional programs. And then there are certain activities at Devens that are regional in nature but are run by the federal government, the National Park Service and so on, and of course those would continue, I'm sure, uninterrupted. Town of Shirley.
Yes, so the town of Shirley has two regional school districts. The Shirley Regional School District, Neshoba Valley Technical Regional School District. Regarding public safety, Shirley has regionalized its communications and dispatch with the town of Air. We provide mutual aid and emergency services with the local various towns. More recently, the town of Shirley shares an energy manager with the towns of Air, Harvard, and Groton. If the town were to assume the jurisdiction of the historic boundaries of Devens, the current regional agreements, we would look to extend those to include the new boundaries and the new residents. Recognizing, although, that Devens does maintain its own public safety and emergency services and does send its students to the Harvard schooling system, I think that would also be an opportunity for the local municipalities to reassess if any additional or new regionalization would be appropriate at that time.
Okay, Neil. Oh, no, I'm sorry. John, Devens Working Group. Neil has to wait.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In terms of regional services, the plan would be for Devens to keep the vast majority of regional services. We will support most of current regional initiatives to include dispatch, household hazardous waste, Eco Efficiency Center, the Great Exchange, MRTA Devens, as well as other services. That's all we have.
Okay. Okay, Neil.
Mr. Chair, I don't need to say too much more. I think you covered almost every regional service that we have listed. Obviously, utilities we already talked about. Regional dispatch, veteran services, household hazardous waste collection facility, our regional open space and recreation amenities. Couple of things that weren't mentioned, our nature-based solutions work that we partner with the towns of Air and Harvard and Shirley on integrating, low impact development techniques on a regional basis for, climate mitigation and adaptation strategies. Again, everything else on a regional services is listed in our report, but I think they've been mentioned by everybody here.
It really has developed into a regional enterprise zone as the legislation anticipated. So that ends the submissions we've completed so far. And I'd just like to draw everybody's attention, at the very bottom of our agenda is a link to the website for this committee, which has all of the submissions listed under other documents, as well as the minutes and other information that we've generated over the past several years. So if anyone would like a more complete picture or a more detailed analysis in these submissions, I direct you to the website. And also, again, to acknowledge the hard work that Janice has put into maintaining that website. It's really a nice piece of work. Okay, next item on our agenda, contingency plan for applying for grants. Robert, we've been waiting for 2 months for you to
So, Mr. Chair,
fill us in on it. That better be good.
no pressure. In the interest of time, so in a nutshell, what we talked about at the last meeting was one of the challenges that this group has experienced is often grant opportunities may present themselves in a time-sensitive manner in which either we haven't had a meeting or we need to convene or for certain deadlines. So the conceptual discussion at the last meeting was to put together a contingency plan for applying for grants. And what I think we should consider is moving forward a subgroup on grants that has one representative from each of the stakeholders, and that they be empowered by this group, that in the event that a grant presents itself in a time-sensitive manner in between, that group is authorized to at least take the initial steps on said grant report back and then move forward in that manner. Not looking to subvert the overall framework group, but to just have a dedicated subgroup representing all of the stakeholders that can at least interface with potential grants. It could as simple be as, look, based on the nature of the framework group, we need to convene the whole group. Can we get an extension or so forth? So we have a dedicated communication piece. Not looking for a vote necessarily today. I think for the next meeting, what I can do is reach out to all holders and maybe everybody be thinking of who they would want for their rep, and then when we next meet, we could put that group together. So it'd be basically having eyes and ears for this group, really to, in instances, and it's not going to be all the time, in instances where an opportunity presents itself that we need to act in a timely manner. Not looking to replace this group or just to be a grant applying. Does that make sense? Okay.
Any thoughts on this? We'll put that on the agenda for next time, Robert.
Yeah.
And you'll recommend to this committee a membership of that group. Okay. Neil?
Chair, how to Robert, how would the fact that mass development is not coming to the table on these issues factor into that pursuit of grants? I just don't want this committee to be in the same position we were last time, where we received grant funding and were unable to utilize it because we didn't have all parties at the table and it wasn't appropriate.
Yeah. Let me give that a little thought in the interest of time.
Just don't want to waste everybody's time.
No, agreed. I don't either. It's a fair point. So let me we'll give that some further thought for next time.
Great.
Along those lines, just as I recall, our legislative delegation had a lot to do with the grant that we did receive. I'm looking for some kind of pressure point with respect to mass development. Their budget is off the books. The budget doesn't come before the legislature, so that traditional avenue of pressure from the legislature is not available to us. But having said that, that doesn't mean that the legislatures don't have some influence. What about, we've done this in the past, what about inviting Jamie Eldridge, John Cronin, and Dan Cena to our next meeting? And we could talk to them about grant funding, as well as talk to them about the whole issue of getting mass development engaged. They may have some thoughts. Does that make any sense to anybody?
I think that's not a bad idea, but I think that we need to come up with a more cohesive plan so when they're sitting in front of us, we can say, this is what we've come up with, because we don't want to necessarily do all the brainstorming with them sitting here. We want to kind of have, a plan so that when they're sitting here, we're not utilizing all their time for, well, we think, this, and that. We can come to them and say, this is what the committee has talked about, and this is our issues. What do you think?
Okay. And how would you suggest that we go about putting that together?
Well, I think next, if we get on the agenda for this to talk about it at our next meeting, that'll kind of formulate the plan, and we can have a more in-depth thing, and then from there we'll know, like, when's a good time to, because we can say to them, hey, we're meeting on this date, and they are going to be like, well, we can't meet with you on November, we can meet with you in December. So meanwhile, we're still working this, and so I think that we've got the plan to start it, and then go from there.
Well, what about if I reach out to the committee and ask for items that we might want to discuss with them, to begin to put together some kind of a rough
well, I
list?
think that's what Robert was going to be doing. He was going to reach out as far as, what we're going to come up with as far as a plan to discuss.
Mr. Chair, what if we approached it this way? On the grant front, let's for the next meeting, we'll finalize that as part of the agenda. But perhaps more importantly is inviting the state legislative delegation not to talk about grants at that meeting, but in light of this sort of standstill that we're now at with mass development, I think it would make sense to formally update the state delegation on the situation and see what their thoughts are as to how we proceed. Because we're in a very unique crossroads in the sense that after a multi-year effort, a key stakeholder that is operating the place is not willing to come to the table.
So to narrow the issue of what we want to talk to them about, specifically mass development's engagement.
Yeah.
And again, they've been copied on the correspondence back and forth, so they know the status of it. Is that sufficient, Janice, to communicate to them that that's what we'd like to talk about and invite them to our next meeting?
Oh, I doubt you'll get them here at your next meeting in October. Just because when we've asked them, you know, hey, can you meet with us? They're usually like another month out. But I think that could be something that we can get them to show up for, yes.
Okay. I mean, the invitation could be worded in such a way that, you know, we meet for the second Wednesday of every month.
Yeah, that's how I've worded it when I asked them to come before our board. I'm like, we're available this date, and they always go another month. So when I say we're available in April, they say, well, we'll come in May. That's what I'm saying. That's how far out their schedule is made and everything, but yeah.
Okay, is everybody comfortable with me extending an invitation to them on that basis? So I think in the past we've gotten Dan Cena and Jamie Eldridge to appear at different meetings, but nonetheless they've come. Okay, so I will do that.
Mr. Chair, just so I'm clear, if mass development isn't involved, they have to be a signer on a grant? All stakeholders have to be a signer on a grant, or could this group move forward with a grant without them?
Robert?
We could move forward. What the issue was is we had a grant that was initially awarded from mass development, and what we wanted to do, which was a financial analysis, mass development did not agree that that was the appropriate fit for this grant. So there were two options. One was they were either going to take the grant back and reprogram it to another part of the state, or what ended up happening is that we had it reprogrammed so that one of the pieces of it will be doing a school analysis with respect to Devens with the 3 towns and the deck, and then there's a couple other components that came out of the housing working group. Yeah.
So actually the grant came from the Department of Housing and Livable Cities, and the RFP that we constructed, a very clear set of financial documents that we were looking for that only mass development has control over. So that's how they can thwart our efforts, that even though we got a grant to do something, if they're not willing to cooperate, we're dead in the water. And our hope was that a grant coming from another state department would encourage mass development to participate. And in the letter that we sent to them, we did mention and did supply them with a copy of this RFP. So they know what we're up to, and they know that if they sit on their hands, that they can stop us from executing. Okay, so that's progress. The next item under old business is activity of the education. No.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were reading it. My eyes went the wrong place. My eyes went the wrong place. I apologize.
Been there. Education group. I think, Dan, you were involved in that, and Brian as town administrators, and Robert?
Yeah. So
what's going on with that?
So we will have a substantive update for the next meeting on, that was what I was mentioning on this grant. There are some components, various components to it. The education one, we have to, it'll be the three towns, Devens Enterprise Commission and the superintendents from both school districts. We are going to be convening, we'll have that meeting, which will determine sort of next steps, and we'll have an update.
So we'll keep that on the agenda
Yep.
as old
Yep.
business. Okay, under new business, during the past month, Janice and I received a communication from John Catter indicating that the Devens committee would like to see other towns chair this meeting other than Harvard. John, I'll just turn it over to you to begin the discussion.
Thank you,
If you
Mr.
would.
Chairman. Correction, it was not the Devens Committee. I'd first like to recognize and commend and thank Victor Norman for his stewardship of this committee over the past 6 or more years. Not an easy task that he has done, but he's done it admirably. Some of my constituents, Devens residents, feel, as I do, that the rotation of this committee's leadership is appropriate at this time to let other towns serve this leadership capacity. I make a motion to rotate the chairperson role at this time and nominate Janice Livingston of Air as the new chair of the Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Neil?
Mr. Chair, is there a term proposed, or did I miss that, or?
I would think that if there's a rotation and whoever, we can put it on the agenda for the next meeting to discuss
I
a
agree.
future rotation.
Okay. Further discussion?
So having said that, if you vote this, then it will discuss for a term next time?
We can put it on the agenda to discuss a term.
And
You can't do it today. You have to have it on the agenda to talk about any potential terms as far as, you know, what a chair would be.
would we have an effective date for
It would be effective.
Janice? Effective immediately,
It
or
would be effective the October meeting.
next meeting?
Would be the new chair, just like it would be on any board.
Okay. Understand.
All right, so are you offering that as an amendment? Right now we have a motion to elect Janice as chair that's been seconded. So you're offering an amendment to make that effective for
No,
the
there is no
October.
amendment to make it effective. I don't think that's normal. As soon as you're,
For the next, I say we make it effective for the next Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee meeting.
Okay, so, all right. So the motion is to elect Janice as chair, effective the next meeting in October.
The next Devens
Well,
Jurisdiction Framework Committee meeting.
Okay,
it's usually the way it usually goes. I kind of,
Okay.
it's like at the end of this meeting, when we adjourned, I'm chair.
all right. Okay, are we ready? Any more discussion? We're ready for a vote? Okay, on the motion, Janice Livingston,
Aye.
Robert Pontbriand,
Aye.
Rachel Freelander, Dan Nason,
Aye.
Brian Sawyer, Logan Breeze, Brian Hildebrand,
Aye.
Bill Marshall,
Aye.
Neil Angus,
Aye.
John Catter,
Aye.
Ryan McDivitt.
Aye.
Okay.
And Kristen Cullen is online with us now.
Oh, Christian Cullen, are you prepared? Aye. Okay. The chair votes aye. The vote is unanimous. Janice Livingston is now chair of the Jurisdiction Framework Committee. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Mr. Chair, I'd like to make another motion, please.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to move the Devens Jurisdiction Framework Committee meetings to quarterly basis, effective immediately.
I don't think that that's a good idea.
Wait a
And I'll
minute.
say why. Because
Okay.
I think that that should be an agenda item. That's the way it would normally be. It would be an agenda item so that we can
Okay.
have a full conversation as far as what we're going to do going forward, because we still
Okay,
have the
I'll withdraw my
matrix.
motion, Janice.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's.
Put it on the next agenda.
Put it on the next agenda.
Okay. All right, before we get to other items for the next meeting agenda, I'll open the floor to public comment. Paul?
Where do you want me to sit so that people at Zoom? Sit here, Paul? I'll just take this. Oh, okay. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a couple of ideas I'd like to share with the committee. I've been suggesting to Senator Eldridge and Representative Senna, who are the Harvard and Air and Shirley, Senator Cronin has Shirley, but otherwise the first two gentlemen I named have the other towns, that they form a Devens caucus, the purpose of which would be to ensure that they communicate on a timely and accurate basis between each office on their issues and ideas and filings regarding Devens. I don't for a moment expect them to agree on everything having to do with Devens, but I think they owe it to us and to each other to not surprise each other, to not introduce a bill and on the floor of the State House, one of them discovers, oh, you know, here's what Senator Representative so-and-so is up to. Also, I think that as the news of this caucus, if they can do it, and the news of this gets out, they will have more authority, basically, more moral authority, obviously no more votes, but in terms of convincing fellow representatives and senators. So I would respectfully ask each of you representing constituents here, your own constituents here today, when you meet with your senators and representatives, to talk about this idea, assuming you agree with it. The second thing I want to bring before the committee is a statement that I attribute to Karl Rove years ago. Now, I'm sure I don't agree with Karl Rove on everything he stands for, but I thought he had a really important strategy when he was advising politicians in how to succeed, and that was figure out the strength of your opponent and go directly to the strength. Don't mess around the edges. And the strength of mass development, in my opinion, in this standoff, if you will, for starting at 2025 or 2030 is Chapter 498. They're basically resting their entire case without any additional information or reasoning on the text of Chapter 498. And Senator Cronin, Senator Eldridge, and Representative Senna work for us. They work for the citizens of these towns and a few other towns. Mass development, they certainly respect and listen to mass development, as we all do, but I would respectfully suggest you discuss asking our elected representatives to amend 498, to move in the 2030 date to whatever date we would like to see. Secondly, if mass development is going to stand by 498, then there's an issue for the Devens residents, which is they are not listed in 498 as a party to these discussions. And so at the same time, we're talking about, or you might be talking about, changing the date to bring mass development to the table.
you have to think about, well, maybe we should be adding the Devens residents or the Devens businesses or what have you to this. Now, in all honesty, when we've talked about this, and first of all, these are my personal, I should have said this up front, these are my personal views, although I'm a member of the Harvard Devens Jurisdiction Committee in Harvard and have been since day one. These are my own views. They're not new, though. I've mentioned them, most of them in that meeting. Obviously, anytime you ask the legislature to amend a piece of standing legislation, especially one as important and significant as 498, other things could come up. And so you have to ask yourselves, is that all we want? What if somebody else wants a change? How do we deal with that? How do we fend off stuff we don't want? And I'm certainly no expert on the politics of this, but I think, you know, you can't let your worst dreams guide your best actions. That's why I was saying that. My final idea is you've been on this committee talking about the one big beautiful grant. What if instead you looked at the challenge of planning the future of Devens and thought, well, here's a piece of it that we, the current representatives attending the DJFC meetings, we think we could work that out in a robust, public, open way and deal with that. Now, having been on Devens committees for probably close to 10 years now, I know that it's rather difficult to find an area that you can carve out because they all kind of tend to interact. But still, instead of looking at this, I would suggest to you that instead of looking at this only as we'll get a grant, we'll hire consultants, we'll figure it all out, life will be good, you think, well, you know, what if we just tackled the intermunicipal agreement aspect of this, right? Just for example. How are we going to do that? Do we really honestly need mass development at the table to figure that one out? I don't know. But I think, as I say, maybe splitting this up in the smaller units, you could make some progress. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other comments? Paul, if you would if you could in 25 words or less, submit your comments so that they can be included in the minutes. Sure. We do include public
they'll
comments.
be on the Zoom thing too. They should. Yeah.
Say again?
It'll be on the recording.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay, we're good.
Just ask AI.
Yeah. All right, so the items for the next agenda, item number 18, boundaries. We will have Robert will report on the membership in a grant subgroup, and I will draft. I will send an invitation to our.
Well, you can't send it as chair. Once this meeting's adjourned, you're not chair anymore.
Okay. Janice will send a letter to our legislative delegation inviting them to a meeting, whether it's our next meeting or subsequent meetings. And then there'll also be an agenda item on changing the frequency of this meeting from monthly to quarterly.
Correct. Meeting schedule's on there.
What did I miss?
Share discussion on term limits.
I already got it on there. Yep.
Term limits.
Funny how all of a sudden we want term limits. Thanks, Neil. First words out of your mouth. How long?
We talk. No offense at all. We just, Victor's been doing this for 6 years.
I actually have something that I'm going to bring forward to the committee for review.
Yeah, and I think, I think everybody was in agreement that we should alternate. Mm-hmm. I just want to question how frequent should we alternate?
It's just funny the way you did.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, some of us have got to go on to other things.
Yes, we've reached the end of our agenda. I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second? Is there no discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Without objection, we are adjourned.
Thank you.